Okay, well, my name is AJ Springer. You're joined by my co-host Noah Vieira, and this is Talking Providence.
Yep.
Now, because it's our first episode, I think someone who's not me should explain what the name is, what it means, why we're using it, why we might not be using it, but generally give us some kind of vantage point here. So, Noah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Providence has kind of like a twofold meaning. One of them's pretty religious and one of them's pretty interesting, so we're going to go with the interesting one. But basically it's the timely preparation for future eventualities. A lot of the stuff we talk about is prepping, getting ready, just doing things every day to make yourself incrementally better. Things you're not going to see on a day-to-day basis, like making you better. But if you look at it over, a month-long period or a 10-year period or whatever long, if you start seeing it in that like category, then we're going to start noticing things. So that's really what we're talking about. That's really what Providence means. And yeah, that's how we got to this name. And anything else you want to add there?
Nope, I think you nailed it. Why don't you tell us who you are and where you're coming to us from right now?
Yeah, it's a good idea. I feel like you guys want to know a little bit about me before you start listening to the absolute garbage that we're going to start spewing. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually interesting stuff. So I'm Noah from Bermuda. Met AJ in school. And I'm currently filming in Bermuda, and you are in Toronto.
Downtown Toronto.
So when you hear the fire trucks going, it's not to his house. It's just being in a big city.
That's a good point. And there are many of them. That's the one or first thing you learn about living in downtown Toronto is fire, police, ambulance all day long, just on repeat, round and around and around.
Yeah, that was wild though, because like when we were in Montreal, didn't see that.
No.
Or I don't remember it.
No, it's very different. It's just everything's faster here, so that's
it's a bigger
how
city.
That works. Anyways.
It's the New York of Canada. But anyway, so what are we going to talk about today? I mean, other than our intro, but like, how are we? What's this podcast about? Like, what are we doing here?
Well, we've gone back and forth on this to some degree. But the idea is, first and foremost, at least from my perspective, that this is a bit of a selfish project. And as part of being in your early 20s and trying to improve and get smarter and be more coherent and a better person, I thought that it would be important to have something like a podcast where we come together every week and talk about a topic, depending on what it is. All that does is it forces you every week to think about that topic and research it and organize your thoughts. And the general idea there is then when it comes time to actually speak about it, that you'll become better at doing this, better at thinking, smarter, etc. So that's the basis of it. And specifically, we are going to talk about the things that we have found so far, or we have read about, thought about, talked about, that we think are very important as a young man to be doing, and generally for any man, or if we have one female viewer, it would be useful to them as well. So there's the selfish aspect, but also at the same time, should be useful for other people as well.
Yep. We're gonna call those pillars, right? Pillars of our lives.
Yes, pillars.
I think we decided on pillars.
I wanted buckets, but apparently that wasn't sophisticated enough. So
buckets is probably more realistic for us.
They are like buckets right now, and you can just throw them around and smash them. And
eventually, we'll use those buckets to build some pillars. But
exactly.
You want to go through kind of what the general pillars are, because we have pretty similar ideas as to what they are. But you definitely articulate them a little better. By a little better, I mean I don't know what I'm talking about.
Pillars, pillars, pillars. So the ones that we talk about in no particular order, and if there was, health should probably be first. But anyways, we have wealth, we have education, we have health, we have relationships and your social life. We have adventure slash fun goals. And then on top of that, there is a leisure aspect, or as Noah Vera likes to say, the art of doing nothing. Now, right off the bat, those are the pillars. Within the pillars, obviously you can open them up. There's a lot of things to look about, which is why they are defined broadly, and it should give us, a base that we could actually be able to do this podcast for like 100 years and not get through everything. One of the key ideas when looking at these is the idea of consuming and producing. So there's always going to be two. If you look at something like education, you could think like reading, but there's also, the other side of that. You have to write, you have to produce, you have to speak. You don't have to make a podcast, but you have to work those muscles. Otherwise, you're missing out on at least 50% of the equation. And, me and you could argue that it might be more than that, right?
And you're going to be weak in those areas.
Yeah.
And we're trying not to breed weakness. But at the same time, it's okay if you don't want to work them. Some people just have small shoulders or small legs. And that's okay.
I was told that I'm the name dropper on this podcast. And that's true because I am. I actually think I may have branded that to myself.
But yeah, I didn't tell you that, but I'm thinking it. You just reading my mind. You just living here rent free right now.
My high school quote was
another cliche.
The original draft of it before it got taken down, and me and my buddy Michael Spiegel, we did like a play on, it was like a joke together because Springer and Spiegel are right beside each other in the yearbook. Except what ended up happening is I ended up like the first name on a row, and he was the last name on a row, so they weren't lined up and it looked really stupid. Besides the point. But the original draft was Mark Ripito from Starting Strength. And the quote is, "Strong people are harder to kill than weak people and more useful in general." That's it. That was
I like it. Wait, but how did it mix with the Spiegel?
So that was the original one, and then we decided to do a joke, which was from Letterkenny. It was, "See the muscle shirt came today," and then mine was, "Muscles coming tomorrow?" Question.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is funny because most people should not be wearing muscle shirts in high school, including myself at that time. So it's a nice little.
Yeah, no, it's not ideal to start really loading yourself up too early, unless you want to be short, So like some people just have bad genetics at the get go, so like you know what I mean? Like just compress those growth plates. Doesn't really matter. You're not really getting there. Not to like hate on short people, but
Of course. Now
I feel like if your dad's like 5'2". Yeah, but like you know what I'm saying, right? If your dad's 5'2", you can maybe start lifting a little early.
Look, man.
Once you hit 5'4".
Regardless of where you start.
All right, we'll edit that one out.
It's all void, right? You can only just do what you're gonna do with what you have, and that's it. That's how the game works.
Exactly.
So, does not matter where you start. Anyways, why don't you help us break down what these pillars are that we're talking about, starting with wealth. What does that mean? What is wealth? What's in there?
Yes. So like that one is really like the way I look at it is you need to be doing something to generate an income of money, because that's the means in which we exchange everything for it, right? So doesn't mean you have to be out there just building a stockpile of like, oh, I need to be making more money. No, but we have to be all striving to actually make something. We can't just be existing. If we want to be productive members of society, we can't just be existing, as a sponge. We need to actually be driving towards something. But at the same point, there's no metric as to like what number you should be going for. That's not what we're really looking for. It's more or less having some sort of drive to be the best you can be in an area that you can be compensated for is kind of what we're looking for. And then also on the flip side is understanding principles surrounding, good money practices, right? Being good stewards of what you're given, right? Not buying a car when you definitely can't afford to make the payments and just hoping for the best, you know what I mean? Or buying like a Rolex because you made 10 grand so you can spend 10 grand. You know what I mean? Like those are not wise decisions. So like that's kind of another element of wealth, right? Is being able to pay yourself first. And I think you can explain that part probably a little bit better.
Right. And yeah, every time that we talk about wealth, that's what we're always starting with, is the idea of paying yourself first, which you have to do. So What that really means from a practical viewpoint is if you're cashing your check, say you get paid every 2 weeks, you're making $1,000.
Yep.
So what you have to do first, it might seem like, oh, well, that's me getting paid, right? It's the $1,000 and I put it in my bank account. Well, no. In order to actually be paid first, you're going to have expenses. You're going to want to buy things, do things, food, entertainment, friends, all of those things. Plus, you're going to get taxed. So you have money disappearing. Before you go and spend that money, you have to pay yourself first. And how do you pay yourself first? Well, you do that by investing your money. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to invest your money in. And frankly,
we don't actually know yet.
Yeah, I mean, you are not welcome to look into my investment accounts right now, but I do pay myself first. I do not handle my own money. I have someone who does that. But the point is always going to be the same across the board, which is you have to be doing that because that money needs to be protected so that you have it, and that's how you actually build wealth. We're talking about wealth. There's distinctions between that and income, which we're not going to get into today per se.
Yep.
But that's the most important thing. And now if you look at your favorite personal finance books, then or you can actually, with our religion expert over here, Noah will tell you they usually set you somewhere around 10%. 10% would be a good start there. So if it's $1,000 minimum, $100 into your investment account, let your money earn for you.
Yep.
Grow through appreciation, dividends, whatever it is. That money's there. It's locked. It's set for your future. That is paying yourself first. Everything else is cherry on top, and you can start at 10%, and ideally,
just move it up.
Yeah, it'd be as high as it can go.
Yeah. Like the idea of living below your means is pretty interesting because, like, obviously if you're making $1,000, your technical means are $1,000, but not if you pay yourself first, right? Now your means are $900. And then as you increase your income, like, you don't really need to increase your expenses. You know what I mean? Like once you increase the expenses, it's like usually because you have kids or girlfriend or whatever AJ's been up to. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's a good principle to get into, right? Like the religious aspect is giving your first 10, like tithing. That's like a Jewish Christian, Judeo-Christian thing, which is pretty interesting, right? Because it's learning to live on that 10%. I mean the 90%. Which is good.
Exactly. And that's what you have to do, right? It's money and there's a number of ways to do that automatically these days so that when your paycheck comes in or however you get paid, an automatic deduction is made that just goes into your investment account and paying yourself first. And it's really important because, yes, you have to operate as if, you only are making whatever it is, $900. And, you're going to have to factor in tax and other immediate expenses, rent, food, things like that. But that's the ideal, always paying ourselves first. But the exciting part about paying yourself first is there's more ways to pay yourself first than just wealth, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you can look at something like education. You can invest in the stock markets, you can invest in real estate, cryptocurrencies, alternatives, whatever it is, but you should also be investing in skills. Skills are important, and there's a...
And they can't take that from you. You can't get taxed on a skill either.
No.
Keep that in mind.
And it is arguable, although I'm in the process of doing a bit of self-discovery here myself. There's a very smart guy named Alex Hormozy, and you should go check out his YouTube channel. He's a very successful entrepreneur. And what he talks about is that the return that you'll get on skills earlier on in your career is way bigger than you'll get investing in anything else. Because ultimately, when you start a career, you have almost no skills or underdeveloped skills. So when we're talking about that $1,000 paycheck that you're getting and you're investing $100 of that, the 10%, what can happen is if you gain relevant skills and you become very proficient, that $1,000 paycheck can turn into $10,000. And all of a sudden, when you're arguing between if you should invest in the S&P 500 or the TSX 100 or this Vanguard fund, whatever it is,
Yep.
well, it's going to be a heck of a lot better if you're putting in 1,000 versus 100, right? That's 10x already. And good luck finding an investment return, unless, I mean, we're talking like T-bills or something. But good luck finding an investment return that's going to have that disparity. Ultimately, you're going to get something close to the market. So, yeah, investing in skills is important. So how do we invest in skills, Noah? What does education mean? Should I go to school? Should I get another degree? What do I do?
Yeah, I mean, education is a wild one, right? Because most people will tell you that, like, on your resume, what your education is where your formal education happened. But, you know, like, we've talked a lot about this, is that school is not necessarily for everybody, right? And just because you don't excel in the school doesn't mean you can't learn anything on the internet. You know, you can take a course and learn how to, I don't even know, play the piano. Like, that's like education, that's a skill, but you know what I mean? It's something different, right? It's going to make your life better. Learning better skills for generating money, like how to code and stuff. You know, some people might say they're better, but realistically, it's like if you want to learn something, it's you just got to start learning, and it can't be, oh, I need to go to school. It's because the information's out there, right? There's YouTube links on everything. I don't know how to fix my car. Like, you can literally type in the type of car you have and how to change or what the problem is, and they'll tell you how to fix it on YouTube. Like, you can watch a guy from some, you know, Eastern European country who will tell you how to fix, you know, a European car or basically anything. You know what I mean? So, like, that's kind of something that you got to learn, is that education's not just school. And like some people excel in that, they take that education from school and they excel, right? They take that, they transition it right into the job that they want, and that's great, right? But not everybody's going to do that. And even once you're done with school, that's not where education stops, right? You got to keep learning new things. I want to say every day, but like you want to keep learning new things every year. You want to have new things that you've learned. And it should be like a daily process of slowly just trying to build a habit of learning something new. You know, there's that cliche of like, oh, learn something new every day. But realistically, that's what you should be trying to do.
And it's true. And the beauty of education is that if you do limit yourself, there's nothing wrong with school, and we talk about this too, which there are certain people, guys like my roommate Joe, who like really just got a lot out of school. There are other people who don't get a lot out of school, but the point is, at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you go to school, don't go to school. I ultimately think, at least in Canada, the return is very good. It doesn't cost too much money.
And like Canada's also a different ball of wax, right? Because Canadian schools are geared more for people who, I don't want to say want to learn, but like the culture is a little different in Canada. It's you know, it's more not the next stage of your life, like in the US, where it's like, oh, I'm going to go study. Like, I heard about this one girl that my buddy met in this like first week, and she was studying ceramics. Did a 4-year degree in ceramics. Like, okay, but not like, I don't think Canadian schools do degrees in ceramics. You know what I mean? Like, they're a little bit more education focused and less figuring out who you are. Well, like, you still figure out who you are, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so the thing is that so school is one thing, but it's, you know, it's a drop in the pond of what education actually is. And we cannot limit ourselves to just being educated through school, because ultimately, if you look at these pillars that we're talking about, education is going to be a foundation for all of them. If you want to learn about how to manage your money and what to invest in, all these things, it's going to come down to education. It's going to be reading, writing, talking to people, taking courses, searching online, podcasts, audiobooks. There are tons and tons of sources, including just the people around you. So that's something we have to be looking at every single day. We just have to.
Yep.
There is no other alternative there. And one of the things with education is it's also like it's a great way to improve your social life as well. Like, we're not just talking about money skills. It's not just coding or financial modeling or any of these things. Like you mentioned, it could be learning an instrument. It could be learning about a new country or a new place, and really what you're doing there too is just broadening your horizons. You're exposing yourself to more things, and that makes you infinitely more interesting than just being caught in a bubble where you don't learn.
Yep. No, I totally agree, right? And like, who wants to talk to the boring person at the party, right? The person who's not interesting.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm generally not gravitated towards that person. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're not a person to talk to. It's just harder to have a conversation with them.
I fully agree. And there's some relationships that float in there, just from starting something where you don't know much about it and getting to the point where you're competent with that. The confidence that gives you is very valuable, and something that you might not think about, but actually teaching yourself too that you can focus on something outside of school where you're being forced to do it, and get to a point where you are the resident expert on that topic. It's powerful.
Yep. And
One of
it makes
those
you
things.
a cool person. Or
Yeah,
I don't wanna
one of
say
those
cool, but-
things for me that I did many years ago, but I still look at quite a bit today, was health. So health being nutrition and fitness.
I gotta train.
So-
I don't drink anymore. Just gotta train.
So you
Up
gotta
at 4 a.m.
get up, get after it.
Those kids were freaking out.
But health is one of those things, and the issue with when you think about fitness and nutrition, or I guess I should back up one, and we were just talking about this before we started recording. But anytime you're in a scenario where you are looking at two outcomes, right? And there's no downside, there's only upside. It only follows that if you're a rational person, that you're taking that upside every time. So we talked about this with making your bed in the morning. Do I think that making your bed gives you some superhuman capabilities, and now that you're done one thing, that's going to snowball and you're going to be the most productive person on the planet? No, I don't agree with that. However, given the choice between making your bed so that it's nicely made, your room looks good, and at the end of the day, when it's time to go back to bed, that you have a nice, freshly made bed, or not making your bed, where it's just going to look like crap. Why would you not take the upside there, right? It takes you 2 minutes to do. And it's the same thing with health. It's actually not rational. I mean, we're given this body not to want to take care of it, and it does not matter how you go about doing that. There's no fixed way of you have to train like this, you have to eat like this, but you should be doing something just out of respect for yourself. And even in that
Yep.
situation, the downside, because now we're talking about downsides that are real, like your body deteriorating, aches and pains, all these things that go along with deteriorating health. And thankfully at this stage, you're young enough that you can get away with it. But I'm sure if you look at parents, friends, grandparents, you see the cumulative effects over years of, not taking care of yourself to the best degree. So it's just something that you have to do. So obviously it's up there.
Yep. No, for sure. And it's like, it's really easy to bounce back now, right? But 10 years from now, you know what I mean? It's just incremental things, right? We talk about, Providence and the idea of like timely preparation for future eventualities. But like, think about timely, like just slowly, incrementally getting like deteriorating. You don't see it in a month, but in 10 years, you'll actually see a huge impact, right? One way or the other, right? Positive or negative. But yeah, it's actually pretty interesting.
And that's a key concept that comes across too. And it's not to scare anyone, but all of the returns that come in life are generated from compounding. And what that just means at a basic level is these minor actions that you take on a day-to-day basis, they add on top of each other in an exponential type way, so that eventually, you just keep hammering, and then all of a sudden, like, just like that, all those gains come.
Exactly. So, it's like they're not just going to show up, right? Like you said, muscles are not coming, next week.
It's the same thing.
Tomorrow.
And you can look at, the easiest way to look at it is if you go online and look at like these investment calculators, like an investment horizon, and you punch in that you're going to earn a 10% return over a period. Look at the differences on your returns versus if you start investing when you're 20 years old versus 30 years old. It's actually ridiculous, but it's literally just showing up and making those payments generates this huge disparity in wealth by the end of your investing horizon. And that's the same concept. It's easy to see with numbers, but it's the same concept in education. It's the same concept in health. It's the same concept in relationships and adventure and even leisure. So just something to think about.
So we're gonna go swimming with some sharks.
No sharks.
No sharks.
No sharks for me. I care about my health.
I mean, that's a pretty good invention.
I care about my health.
Adventure.
I can't
fair enough.
With sharks. I'm just kidding. I have no
if
idea.
If you lost an arm, that would suck.
We
could try dolphins.
We could try dolphins. And you know what? Why don't we segue into adventure? So we've done wealth. We've mentioned education. We've talked health. So we're at 3 right now. Adventure. What does that mean? Why is it here? Did I make it up?
Yeah. Why are you making things up?
Did I come up with this concept? Was it Tony Robbins?
Nah.
Who was
but
it?
like, why? I think a key thing to know is like, why are you doing anything, right? And I think adventure is one of those things that you got to have in there if you want to understand, like, why are we here? Like, what's the purpose of us being here? If it's just to be robots and just like accomplish tasks, then that's fine that you don't have adventure. You don't have any enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, adventure and leisure are going to be very like closely related, right? In this kind of analysis of why we're here. But like, if we're not here for that and we're here for experiences, then we should be getting experiences, right? And that doesn't mean you have to, drop everything. I'm not going to work for this year because I just need to get experiences. There's a lot of people who, are very successful and then have great experiences in their time off and their downtime, and they make it work very well.
Yeah, and it's it's something very interesting because there actually is an art to enjoying your downtime and being able to plan out activities and explore and have fun, and it's something that you can get better at. It is not it is not like a hedonist type option where you should just constantly be trying to improve yourself in that regard, because that starts to defeat the purpose. But for example, when I was a kid and I was like probably 11, 12, 13 years old at this point. We were doing some family trips, and my mom, before we would go to any place, she would read an entire book about the
Yeah.
place we were going to, all the best things to see and think about. And so I was a jerk because that's what young boys tend to do, and I hated all those trips.
Exactly.
But in hindsight, obviously I look at that, and I would not know how to do that right now. Like if I was planning a trip, I could not plan it like that. And being able to do that and know like when you're working hard and you're improving in all these other aspects of your life, that when you have time
Yep.
to enjoy yourself, that you can do that to a different level. It's important too. It's something
Yeah.
me and you talk about that I'm trying to work on right now, because at the end of the day, you don't want to just spend your free time watching Netflix or sitting around and drinking Bud Lights. You want to do things that are fun, make memories, have great experiences, right? Not just the same old, same old.
Yeah. I'm surprised you went with Bud Light, but other than that, I agree with everything.
We'll throw in some Coors Banquets for you. Although
The banquets.
I'm hearing rumors about a dry February.
Me? Oh yeah, no. My February is gonna be brutal. I'm like really trying to get like down to like 185. So it's 10 pounds in a month.
I'm hearing rumors from all different places about a dry February, so I think that might actually go down. It starts on Tuesday.
A dry February is great, and February is a good one because it's only 28 days.
It's only 28 days.
It's like 4 weeks exactly on the nose. Like in 4 weeks, Tuesday, I guess Wednesday, you can crack a beer because you don't want to do it right after. But yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Exactly.
Like March, I'm gonna get back into it because I got to start like reintroducing my body to alcohol because like I haven't drank since January 1st, which seems like a long time, but like before that, it was like 3 months before that. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's been a long time since I properly drank. And then summertime, you can't just jump into it, right? It's the same thing as a muscle, right? Like, we're not going to try and promote this, but at the same time, it's also like, you can't just decide to turn that switch on and then, down an entire bottle of Fireball, because
No,
it's a recipe for disaster.
Someone I know did that once, and it was
Twice.
not pretty. Twice. That's true.
Yeah.
Not just once, but twice, and that's some
Oh, no, not
serious
again.
self-inflicted pain. So
Yeah.
What else do we need to do? Well, we need to have relationships and a social
Oh, yeah.
life.
And that's a big one.
So this one is trickier, and it's one that's very obvious. We both come from strong family backgrounds and understand the importance of that, and that's one of the cool things is family is something that, while I do not understand all the ins and outs of wealth at this point, and I won't for a while. Family is one that you just understand right away, or maybe you don't. So if you're in a situation where you don't, you do have to try and learn about that. But one of the things that we mentioned here too is your relationships, your family, your social life. These are not things that you can just take for granted as well in order for them to actually work. And that's what you start, or at least I've started to understand now that I'm living downtown away from my family. My friends aren't just around me all the time. We don't have commonalities by going to the same classes in the same buildings. All that is, it requires effort to make these things work.
Yep.
So it's another thing that you have to train. You have to think about, and you better make time for. Otherwise, they deteriorate. And you can get anything you don't want in life will come to you with no effort. What does that mean? Am I rambling all of a sudden? Well, think about your garden, okay?
You get weeds.
You will get weeds without trying, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Those things will come to you. And that's the same with relationships. If you just sit there and don't put any effort in, your relationships will deteriorate. Your health and fitness will deteriorate. You will not train your brain. You will lose in the education department. And Lord knows, in the wealth department, if you do not
Oh, yeah.
actively pay yourself first, you are going down. So we have
Yeah.
to put points on the board.
We got to. And it's like, it's pretty, I don't want to say easy, but like it's relatively easy now to do it like with minimal effort, just to send a text, just being like, hey, you want to do something. Like you don't even have to call. I recommend calling, but like, you know what I mean? You don't even have to do that. You can just say, hey, thinking of you, you know.
Pick up
Like,
the
I
phone.
don't know.
Pick it up.
Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. It takes you 5 minutes. It's so nice when you talk to somebody for like, even in 10, 15 minutes, like they haven't heard anybody that they, you know, you just pick it up and you make the first move and then bang, now we're in a different situation.
Exactly.
I still love that story you told me though. I want a job. Okay, well here's the number to some CEO. Well, what do I do with it? Pick up the phone and call him.
That's it.
What do I tell him? Tell him you want a job. You know, it's like, it's, you know,
Sometimes
I want to have
answers-
this friendship. It's like, I want to have this friendship. I want to have this relationship. All right, well, pick up the phone. Well, what do I say? Say hi. You know what I mean? Like, it's relatively easy when you think about it that way. It's just, it's not.
Yeah. You know, we can't overthink these things, and I'll layer in another story here, which is, you know, we were complaining to some extent, which is not
You and
something
me?
that's
We don't
that's
complain.
on brand. It's not something that's on brand. Maybe I was complaining, but it was about, I'm living in a
I complain.
large apartment building, and one of the issues is that it can be difficult to meet people. And so, what do? Well, you sit around and complain about how it's difficult to meet people.
Yeah.
Last night we decided to make that change, and our neighbors were
This is a great story.
our neighbors were having a party,
Yeah.
and so what do? Well, you walk over with something to offer, maybe a drink or whatever it is. You knock on the door and you introduce yourself. Hey, we live down the hall. You guys live over here. That's pretty convenient. You guys like to do similar stuff to us. Cool. We'll go out sometime, and that's it. There, now you've made friends in the building. Ta-da. Was it difficult?
Yeah.
No. Did it require some effort? Sure. But there it is, problem solved, right? Rather than sitting around and saying, you know, I can't meet anyone. It's like, yeah, like if you just knock on their door, like most people, and you have to look at it this way, is you, regardless of whether this is true or not, you always have to go into the situation thinking that people out there are generally willing to help you.
Yeah.
Now,
No, that's the thing. It's like, it's very rare to meet somebody who's just like actively does not want to talk to you or do anything at all with you. Like, you say hi on the street and they're just going to completely stump you. Like, that's very rare to meet somebody who's just, like, they might have a bad day, fine. But, like, it's very rare to meet somebody that's their exact nature, is they just hate everybody.
exactly.
Like, it's not saying that there aren't people like that, but like, it's like even meeting people at like a gym, it's weird, right? But you don't even have to talk to the person. It's just being there consistently and seeing them. It's like you start, like I was going to the gym, I changed up my time and I started going, and there was this guy who would just be there, and like this guy was just like jacked, but like not like bulky, just like jacked though. And he would just rip through like these absurd workout regimes, and like he would go and be on like rowing or biking for an hour or running, and then he would come and do like a full like HIIT workout with like pretty heavy weight, and he's just like nonstop, just like boom boom boom. And like, you know, eventually it started, you know, us saying hi and bye as we'd leave, you know, after like the first, you know, couple times of seeing him. And then one time it was just like 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock I got there, so 6:30 I'm leaving. Talking with my brother about like what we're doing for dinner or something, and I just see him like out of the corner of my eye, just start laughing at our conversation. And he comes over and he introduces himself, and he's just like, "Hi," and then we just started talking from there. And he was like, "Yeah, you know, I used to run professionally for Nike and things like that." And it's just like, cool, like, but like now you have a new friend that you know at the gym, and it's like, it's so easy, but like and you also have somebody who you could talk to about running now because he's the fastest guy in Bermuda. You know, like he has all the records for our half marathon that we do every year. But it's like it's wild that you just like, when would you have that opportunity unless you actually go and just say hi? And like, I didn't even do that, right? I just continued the conversation. I took the easy way out. But like, he just walked over and said, "Hi, I'm Chris." You know, like it's so easy. And
that's how
it's
things
like
start.
it's effortless to have a conversation with somebody. Because if I walked over and said, "Hi, I'm Noah" to you, and you were just like, all right, well, like, what did I lose? I lost the 5 seconds then. Like, I lost the potential. Like, really, did I have any potential there? It's like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yes,
That's
sir.
an interesting one. It's an interesting muscle to train as well. Like,
We'll
we've
dive
talked
into
about
these,
that.
and so the last one.
Oh
that we
yeah,
have
for
is
sure.
leisure,
Like this is a big topic.
the
Yeah.
art of doing nothing, and we'll dive more into it. But just the general idea to keep in mind now is you have to have. It's like that yin and yang concept, right?
Yep.
One part, the other part. Like there has to be that downtime too. If you're going to improve in all these other aspects of your life, you better have ways of completely shutting down, and really just being at rest. And it goes, you can find these concepts going back thousands of years. I mean, we're not the ones making this up, right? Even back to that classic biblical story, the day of rest, right? I'm not telling you to become religious. I'm just saying.
I'm not even telling you the world is made in 7 days.
I'm
but
not
it's a
gonna push that
concept,
onto you.
right?
Yeah. But if they knew back then that even a figure as powerful as God needed 1 day of rest,
Yeah.
you better find ways to rest too, right?
Yeah. No, that's crazy because like even if you don't subscribe to the idea that there is a deity out there who created everything, the fact that people put the amount of like emphasis on his power, right? And then he also was like, all right, I worked 6 days. I need a day to just like recuperate.
Yeah.
Saying something.
So there you
The
go.
art of doing nothing.
The art of doing nothing. And
But it's interesting to look at that story though, because it actually has like even a farther meaning there, because it's like he looked at what he had done and it was good, and then he took the rest.
Exactly.
So it's like you don't get to rest if you haven't done anything worth resting from, right?
Oh, there it is. There it is.
It's a very cool concept to think about, because it's like, oh, I worked out 5 days this week or whatever. I did all my I learned something new. I paid myself first. I read some cool stuff, and now because I've done all that good stuff for the week and I've benefited myself, now I need to rest, regroup, and then start over for the next week. And it's a really good concept to think about when you look at rest that way.
Agreed. That is the all important one. And what we're getting at here now, which Noah is hinting at, is that these things do not exist in a vacuum. They all exist together.
Yeah.
Wealth, education, health, relationships, adventure, leisure, consuming and producing. They're all intertwined. You improve in one area, you can improve in other areas. And the trick is to keep in mind all of them, because what can happen is that people will overemphasize one pillar. And it's not that you can't, allocate your time appropriately depending on the situation. It's just that we cannot sacrifice everything else for the achievement of one goal. We can't do that. It can't just be one. You have to at least, and we'll talk about this, bus benches, park benches, getting places, relaxing. But at the minimum, there has to be a baseline in these other pillars that's set while you're, pursuing something bigger. That's completely fine, obviously, in order to, if you just look at like driving humanity forward, like people make big sacrifices and things require astronomical efforts in one discipline. But we got to at least have a foundation to build off of, which is something really easy to do in your 20s, right?
Oh, yeah. Because, think about it. If you screw up, just bomb everything you do in your 20s, you're still only 30. You know what I mean? There's that guy on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, Gary V. And, he likes to talk about this.
Gary.
And like, I'm not like the biggest fan, but I'm also not like, you know what I mean? Like, I think he makes a lot of really good points, and like that's probably his best point is that like you're still so young.
Right.
Like you screw up completely. All right, fine. Like the decisions you make in your 20s, if you do really good ones, they make your 30s and everything else so much easier. But it doesn't mean it's going to be impossible because I tried all these things and they failed. And like that's a really good one. And I think that really segments into our like our last main pillar, right? The like producing. You know, generating that output.
Right. Always,
because,
producing is important, and we're getting meta here. I also do want to point out that our 45 minutes is pretty much up, so we're gonna wrap up after this. But
yeah,
we're getting meta here, which is the point of us doing this podcast in the first place. Do I have massive value to add right now? No, but the only way to actually get to that point is by producing. You have to produce.
Yep.
And whether it's a podcast or it's writing, or it could literally just be talking to people about these things, which we'll get to in relationships, is having people that you can actually try and improve with and who will not shoot down your ideas and will actually play these scenarios out with you. Extremely valuable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's all we're doing all day long here is we're producing because we want to be better people. And, in that process, we'll see how it goes. You literally get a live look. I mean, we'll look back 10, 20 episodes from now.
Yeah.
And we'll get to look back and say, that first episode wasn't great, was it, Noah? No. Well, it was the first episode. We had to do it. This is the only way you get to the 20th, the 50th, the 100th episode. You have to start.
Yeah, you just got to take that first step.
We'll talk more
but we'll talk more about that.
With jujitsu.
Yeah.
It's a good one to talk about.
That is a great one. But yeah, like this is a good time to just kind of wrap it up. And if you want to, see us, we're gonna try and do this every Friday. Have a new release. Today I know is gonna be. I don't even know what day this is gonna come out. I know it's not gonna be Friday.
It'll be a day.
This is coming out
someday,
and then the next one will be. The next one will be on Friday the 4th of February.
That's a good point.
So we'll I'll let you know that one.
We'll be,
and that one will definitely be there because we now have the first one, so we can do it the second one. But yeah, I think this went well. I think this is a good decision.
Yes, sir. And we're gonna try and do this.
I hope you guys,
We're gonna try and do this right. We'll be posting Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just doing it in a way where, it's not an outcome dependent thing, but given the alternative of not trying hard at this or trying hard, we're going to try hard.
Yeah, it's like making your bed, right?
Make your bed.
There's no direct positive outcome from just making your bed, but
do it.
There's no negative either, right? And you just got to try, and eventually, maybe you'll learn something, and hopefully, we can be the guy who helped you. But,
well, there you go. All right.
Thank you.
Well, we'll leave it
see you on Friday.
next Friday.
Cool.
Cheers.